partidei. Delgado acolo este, va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
Okay.
You got a song?
I got one. It's tricky to rock a rhyme right on time. It's tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky, tricky, tricky. What is it? It's tricky. It's tricky, tricky, tricky. It's Monday, it's 3 o'clock, assuming you're watching this live, which is the same intro I've used probably for the last 4 of these I've done, but hey, I like it, I'm sticking with it, I'm running with it. Today I'm joined by co-owner, host, man, Duncan Casey. And we've taken this opportunity to opportunistically cash in on a new Men in Black film coming out. And also, I've wanted to talk about Barry Sonnenfeld's Men in Black for quite some time because I think it's a really, really great film. And not one, I don't perceive that I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that. It's not one where people are like, I really fucking hate it, but I just don't think it's quite as, I think people view it as kind of like boring mainstream crap, and I don't think that's very fair because I think there's a lot going on in it.
Yeah. I remember when it came out, and there was a lot of it based around the kind of Will Smith vehicle stuff. I think that because he did the tie-in song, and which was
yes.
What was that? What was that based on? I can't remember the loop because he used to just loop.
It's just because say like the Wild Wild West one is "I Wish" by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah,
I can't remember the riff. I can't remember
because I hear the original a lot. In fact, I think it's on my playlist on Spotify.
That's one of those ones like the Stevie Wonder "I Wish" is one of my favourite Stevie Wonder tracks, and it's ruined by one.
Forget me, send me, forget me not. Or that's the song.
Right. Okay. There you go. So directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who I was compelled by you to watch Get Shorty quite recently, which I do not regret. It was a good time. I'm a big fan of the Addams Family movies as well. I particularly like Addams Family Values. I think it's an absolutely genius piece of work.
Okay.
And I think it shares the opening font with Men in Black.
Oh right, okay. Yeah.
So, and I believe Sonnenfeld he had to do Get Shorty first before they'd let him move on to this. And this was attached to a few directors. So this is written by Ed Solomon, or adapted by Ed Solomon, who wrote the Bill and Ted movies and is writing the upcoming Bill and Ted Face the Music, which I'm unironically quite excited about. So, he's got a pedigree in this kind of stuff. It's based on a comic, quite a storied comic that I believe only had 3 issues and was quite different. The kind of initial setup is kind of there, and I think Edgar the Bug is in one episode, but they fight ghosts and demons and things like that in it.
It seems sort of almost in the same mould as The Mask. It's that sort of thing with something completely different. But
that's an apt comparison, because they are. It's quite a dark, violent, unpleasant comic. As I haven't read the Dark Horse Mask series, but I understand that's the kind of setup, and they adapted it because that's Chuck Russell, I think, did that. So this makes it a bit more kind of family friendly. The Men in Black is depicted as quite a benign organisation in this film, and it's off the back, of course. If you, I know. I've probably given us too much credit here, but quite a lot of our audience were born in the 90s, or in some cases later. Mm-hmm. There was a huge fad for government cover-up, conspiracy, alien invasion type stuff in the 90s. So obviously the X-Files and Dark Skies and all the associated stuff like I can't remember.
Independence Day, because that still had an Area 51 aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, there was loads of it, and it was all over television and pop culture, and you'd get all these kind of cheesy magazines. So this rode that particular wave, and I think it came at the right time for that. So the peak of that fad, also meeting with Will Smith, who essentially I think he was still doing Fresh Prince when he started doing movies, like just about, and then it kind of wrapped up.
Well, because it was, I think Bad Boys was the sort of handoff, really, wasn't it? Which was, 94?
Mr. Black.
No, 93, 94. And then, I think, Fresh Prince was still going then, I think. But like you say, just about. I think he managed to sort of segue quite nicely into film. But obviously, like Bad Boys, it's interesting because Bad Boys is not a family-friendly film.
Not at all. And I think Bad Boys 2, in fact, the link, I think, between Bad Boys 2 and maybe Men in Black is a necrophilia joke. Isn't that the one where they admire the dead woman's boobs?
Yeah. That was 2003, though. Bad Boys 2 came out. It's like 10 years later. Anyway,
there's a new one of those coming as well.
Supposedly, but then that's been
that's happening. It's like they're shooting it and stuff. That's happening.
All right. I mean, it was very much. This was I remember, if you think of Will Smith movies, it's like Independence Day, Men in Black, and those are the big two, I think, aren't they? I mean, Bad Boys.
Well, I mean, yeah, and then it wasn't. He started off kind of doing Will Smith as Will Smith, but then it's kind of Michael Mann's Ellie and stuff like that, and Ali, whatever. And you know, he started doing kind of serious roles.
Yeah,
Legend of Bag of Ants and whatever else.
He went indie.
But to bring this to digress back around to Men in Black, there's a lot I like about this. It's keyed in to be a Will Smith vehicle. So Will Smith is very much Will Smith. Like, it's a Will Smith kind of like, I make this look good and all that stuff. But he's very good at that. He's an effortlessly charming man. And
it's the little touches, like when he's running after the alien at the start, and he's just like, freeze. It's like, freeze means stop. And, like, and all that sort of stuff. He's very good at humanising characters in a way.
That's, I think it's something really, really important to these films is him and Tommy Lee Jones as a twofer. I mean, that's a really great comment. They're absolute opposites. It's kind of like young black guy from the city and then sort of like old white southern sounding dude with completely different attitudes. And, you know, how they come together and, you know, those two people's characters. Because, you know, Agent K is like secretly quite soft in the middle, you know, and it's all about revealing his interior and stuff.
Well, and spoilers for 3, but that's kind of then, I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's basically that he's been his foster dad the whole time, kind of thing.
Yeah, I really like 3.
I like 3 as well.
Duncan and I had this discussion first, right? Men in Black, 2 doesn't work. I've only seen it like twice, but I saw 3 in the cinema. I really liked it. It's not as good as 1, but I really like Men in Black 3 and I think it works. But that kind of retroactive continuity stuff creeps into it.
It's sort of nice as a round off. Like, I think that sort of is a nice beat to end on for the trilogy. It's not good when you start going back and watching the first one and seeing it in that light. I don't think it works. But
yeah, no, that's a problem. This kind of retroactively. Also, Agent J's dad is Luke Cage.
Of course he is. Yeah.
So I just watched it the other day and I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah, right.
Okay. The guy who plays Luke Cage. But anyway, this is so. I feel like I've got loads to say and I'm struggling to get it into this.
Yeah, sorry. I'm
no, not
derailing.
at all. I mean, this is it's good times. To me, this is a kind of meeting of a couple of things in the sort of pop culture landscape, in that it's the kind of riding the kind of crest of the wave of the conspiracy, alien, cover-up thing.
Yeah.
And Men in Black was just in the general parlance as well. It's just something that people would say in relation to all that shit.
Yeah.
But also, it's kind of greeting the end of that nostalgia for the kind of 50s and 60s B movies, which is what, you know, Zemeckis was doing with Back to the Future and Joe Dante was doing with everything. And, you know, a bunch of directors, Spielberg as well, like all those kind of directors were people that had grown up on that stuff and then they were bringing it out. And this very, very much, I think this kind of put the cap on that. You know, I think this is when that kind of rolled to a stop a bit, because Independence Day did it as well, but it's kind of the alien B movie. You can't really call it alien invasion, but it's alien B movie stuff. Yeah. And so the modern image of the kind of Man in Black, which stretches back to the 50s and 60s as a conspiratorial thing, but, you know, it's very much in the zeitgeist then, is then put next to flying saucers and bug-eyed aliens and big silver guns and flying cars, and, you know, and it really plays on all of that stuff dramatically. And I really think that Barry Sonnenfeld, particularly if you watch the Addams Family films, he has one kind of foot in the screwball comedy. So, you know, it's got a little bit of like Bringing Up Baby or Philadelphia Story or whatever in it. So you can imagine Gomez could be Cary Grant and, you know, Rogers could be Katharine Hepburn or whatever.
Right.
So I think he's got an eye on that. So I think there's lots of, you know, I mean this with a straight face, there's loads of classical cinema in it. And I think and Get Shorty did it as well, because it's, again, I talked about at the time, it's a film about films. And this to a degree is a film about films, but it's a kind of nice pastiche of several quite different movements in cinema. Yeah, true. But it's sort of seen through the lens of a buddy cop thing as well, you know, which is, it's just like this is a crazy sort of genre bending thing that you don't think about because it does it so effortlessly. You don't ever think like I'm watching a million genres just stuffed into one thing. It's really well crafted and do you know, I mean, some of the little bits of trivia I know about it. I know that with Tommy Lee Jones, there was a lot of issues around him because he'd obviously done Batman Forever. And he was not sanctioning buffoonery.
He was not sanctioning buffoonery. But he came on, apparently, when he started on Men in Black, he was playing it like that. And Sonnenfeld had to say to him, no. And then that's where there was a rub because he was like, he didn't get it. And he had to be like, just nothing, do nothing, play it down. You're the straight man.
Yeah, you're not the energy. You're the
yeah, and it's like to look at that. I mean, it seems I don't want to. Tommy Lee Jones is one of the finest actors there is, but to have looked at that script and not got that seems a bit.
It's funny how you carry that energy over, isn't it?
Yeah.
From the previous thing. I'm gonna do this quickly because people get annoyed at me for doing this. But in Star Trek,
Okay.
but in the pilot, it's Jeffrey Hunter played Captain Pike,
Right.
And Spock was in it, but it was a different captain, and it was, William Shatner wasn't on the scene yet. And I watched Leonard Nimoy talking about how he modulated that performance. And if you watch Spock in the pilot and Spock in the series, they're two completely different things. And that's a performative thing, because when he met Jeffrey Hunter, he was very straight, because Shatner's like, a creature called the Gorn,
Right.
But Jeffrey Hunter was completely straight. And he felt when he encountered that as Spock, he was like, well, if he's going to be straight and flat, then I have to have energy. So that Spock's a bit more kind of like, but doesn't feel like Spock. When he met Shatner, he was like, oh, hold on, this makes more sense because I'm supposed to be the logic guy, and Shatner's got all this kind of wild energy, well, not wild energy, but he's got this kind of like masculinity and shit, so he toned it back down.
Right.
And I'm just that's in my lazy pool of references, taking an example of two actors and their respective energies and what you carry through. And that relationship is very similar, I think, between J and K as the two.
Well, it's the trope of 48 hours, or all the
Lethal
red
Weapon,
heat,
48 hours,
all that stuff. It's about crazy energy, stoic, whatever, and they
also
learn.
Dead Heat, which doesn't get enough love, but anyway.
Right, but it also teaches. It's about them learning about each other, and I think, and that's the whole point with it, is what you're watching K4 is that little bit of that tiny needle shift of that is having an effect on him, even though you won't.
Kind of pretty, and the kind of the sad reveal at the end is that actually he wants to retire and stuff like that, which is all undone in the second one, and the second one just doesn't work. And I think, as going back to a point you made earlier about how it makes all of these things sing, the second one's kind of like, oh, we could do that again, and it's like, no, you really can't. that did not work.
It's so much about I mean, actually we have a discussion planned later for something else that I think will address this better, so I won't go on too much about sequelizing stuff, but there is where sequels don't work, I think, is where they tend to focus on the wrong thing. And I don't think Men in Black is something that, because it's all well and good to say, oh, well, it was a comic book, but it's like, yes, but a limited one at that, and you're not even really, you're just using it as a property to do something else with. What's nice about, I suppose, what I think, and again, what I think, as soon as you introduce a trope or introduce a plot device of they can wipe your memory, that brings out so many interesting, like the fact, like you said, they've got big silver guns, and so they can just do whatever the fuck they want and just go beep at the end. And that's how come we get away with that.
And they derive humour from the things they say, like, oh, it's a gas leak, or
just
the bit when he neuralises Egger's wife. And then he starts like having a go about her decorations and stuff, about a wallpaper and shit.
God damn. Somebody in here fix all this up.
Egger, your skin is hanging off your mouth.
D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio, how can we forget? So Rip Torn, of course, Linda Fiorentino.
Intergalactic Kegger.
Linda Fiorentino as well, who I believe her and Will Smith did not get on, which is why she's not back for the next one.
That's a shame, because they have great, they appear to have quite good chemistry in the thing.
I know she really hated Kevin Smith as well when they did Dogma, so I guess just doesn't like the Smiths. And also the band The Smiths, who are overrated and shit, come at me. This is really not the hill I want to die on in this discussion. Yeah, great cast and the great chemistry there, and Tony Shalhoub as well, thrown in there as Jeeves with getting his head blown off and stuff. Great kind of ensemble. I mean, it's really about J&K at the centre of it, but kind of I find
but it wouldn't work without Rip Torn and later Emma Thompson, and
that's kind of sad because they had to kill off Thompson. They had to kill off Rip Torn's character because he had real life problems and stuff and whatnot. So he's not dead. He's just
is he not?
No, he tried to rob a post office, I believe, and he was on like meth or something. He might have died now, but that's why he's anyway. I think Emma Thompson really steps up and she's back for the new one. But I think the cast works really well. My kind of way of placing this, and people might not agree with it, and I do have justification for it. I mean, I've always felt that this is kind of the Ghostbusters of the 90s.
That's a good point.
Doesn't share its kind of worldview, but it does have a kind of, it's a sort of supernatural procedural comedy thing. And I think people forget the first Men in Black is kind of slightly filthy. Like there's one scene, the two parallel scenes is like there's when he goes to meet Fiorentino at the mortuary. Yeah. There's a little, I can't remember the exact line, but there's like a little sly joke about necrophilia. Because she has some line about wanting to be alone with the bodies, and he just does this look, and it's this really subtle little kind of necrophilia joke. Yeah. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, and I always view that as kind of being like the blowjob from a ghost scene from Ghostbusters, because it's just this little bit. It's just kind of like, because a lot of what Ghostbusters does is because it's in the 80s, right? So it's kind of can do that because you could get away with more then.
Right.
And there's this kind of weirdly, there's a kind of adult kind of themes bubbling under, but then both films at one point just go whoop, just straight through. And it's,
I mean, there's all the stuff about him having a little gun and
If you wanted to go down that route as well, you could do all that stuff. But yeah, it's kind of and the other movies don't have it so much, but it is kind of vaguely adult and a little bit naughty, which is sort of like what the Addams Family films were, because Morticia and Gomez have this kind of like insanely hyperbolic romance, and it's all a bit sexy and whatever, and it's kind of like that in a sense, in that it kind of bubbles under, but it never comes through too much, because there's like the tentacle alien giving birth in the back of the car and stuff
right.
And all these kind of things. I can't remember if there's any anal probe jokes in it. I wouldn't be surprised if there were, like, whatsoever.
I can't remember. But there's Will Smith constantly getting gacked on by aliens.
Yes,
which is
that's the running kind of running joke.
One thing actually that I really think about is that the effects don't date it, which is not something you can say about a lot of stuff that came out in the late 90s.
Well, the practical stuff is Rick Baker, and that's really kind of peak Hollywood. I'm a big fan of, I like all of that stuff, but this is going to sound really weird to say, but in terms of practical effects, Rick Baker is amazing. But I always find his stuff like he's like the Man United of effects guys. You know what I mean? It's like the top, and there are people on the internet that will have this discussion with me, I'm sure.
Right.
But like his stuff is all super slick, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's amazing. But yeah, so the little kind of tentacle baby, it's a really great practical puppet, because there's obviously lots of CGI with him being thrown around, but then when and doesn't the baby puke on him as well after?
Yeah.
But it's a really great little practical puppet, and it's a cross between that kind of grey and also, of course, the
little guy in there,
guy in the head, which is such a great idea as well.
It's so well. I mean, I suppose the good thing is when you're creating things for something like this, they don't have to look. They have to look real, as in they have to look like they're there, obviously, and they have. But the good thing is when you've got a sort of single-purpose character like that, you can make all its features say it, like that. So the little guy in the head, for example, is dying, and it's like you don't have to see him have a character arc. You just have to see him be like, and his little chest is going up and down, and it's really well done.
It's amazing, and there's all those little controls.
Yeah.
And when Edgar kind of it suddenly makes sense what he's done. You kind of figure out what he's doing afterwards because he's gone through and opens up. The little guy is in there. Is it real? And I think that's a combination of CGI practical stuff.
What, the impaling thing?
The creature in the...
Oh, I see, yeah.
I actually really like when they find the button to open his head, it kind of reveals the seam, and that's really good, where it kind of goes like... It's a really cool effect. It just really, really sells it.
Yeah. No, I think all that stuff works brilliantly, and all the the three aliens that are in a lot of them.
The little coffee drinking.
Hey Zed, or whatever they were sitting around. And I love that sort of stuff. Is very obviously you have to have that element for our protagonist to go through. So it's like, to everyone else this is normal. He's just stepped into this mad world. This sort of peek behind the curtain.
It's the ordinary people in extraordinary situations thing.
Yeah. And it's the sort of mundane, or the unfamiliar is familiar and all that kind of thing. It's that thing, so that it just adds more veracity, because we're all going, the fuck, but like that's the whole point, is that one thing I'll say is that it's slightly unbelievable. He has this, although actually in the light of what happens in the third film, it's more believable, is the fact that you've got Tommy Lee Jones's character insisting that he's going to be his partner, because he has that thing in the firing range, doesn't he, where he's like, he shot all the, and his explanation is one of those sort of like ones, but it would never hold up. And he's like, it's like, she's up to some shit, like she's just hanging out, 12-year-old girl in the middle of the night in the street, and it's like, yeah, but you still shot the girl you shot all the ones you're not
But
supposed to.
it's the cliche of that was the real there's a great
Yeah.
Fenwick sketch about with Paul Putner where it's about but that was the real test which I do like though because there's the thing of like I like that whole setup because I think it's executed very well because he is kind of the rough one among all these Air Force twats
Yeah.
and like so they deliberately set them up to fail with the paper thing
Yeah.
and he's the only
egg.
one that wants to take the initiative and he's happy to overreach himself and make a bit of a twat of himself by
Yeah.
making all that noise because guess who gets to fill out the paper?
Yeah.
It's not them.
Yeah.
So that whole kind of, and I do like the firing range thing when he shoots because it's what I can't remember. He's like, why did little Sally have to die?
Yeah. But that's because they're all firing at the and he just literally just shoots her in the head.
But he justifies it all because that guy's just working out and stuff. But the little girl's got science books and shit.
Yeah.
And that's what would happen in the field, right? He has to spot them.
I suppose, but it's still a bit on the nose. Like it's just a bit.
Oh, well, and the whole scene really is a cliche on a cliche. Really. But you know, I think it does toy with cliche quite a lot, and a lot of the invasion tropes, and there are sort of the idea that they're actually this sort of intergalactic border police as well, instead of like the sinister CIA kind of wet work guys. They're actually sort of border control and immigration. They're not stopping people. Well, they are stopping the shitbags. The scum of the universe, what the poster said. But you know, they're letting people settle and stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, I quite like the mood it evokes when all the aliens are bugging out and they don't want to say why. Bugging out, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But like, for example, the guy with the baby, they kind of get off world because they know that shit's going to go down in case it's kind of like, what are you talking about? What's going on? It's got that nice investigation strand to it.
Yeah, because you never really see that. What are they called? The bugs or whatever that are going to.
Yeah, you only kind of see its natural form when.
Well, you see Edgar's natural form, but you never see the threat apart from just this big ship doing that on a monitor. It's like you never actually see who they are really or what they're about.
Yeah, I think it seems what I understand for the final act because obviously those sorts of things on sticks are a real thing in America, and they're
World's Fair, isn't it?
Is it part?
Yeah.
And they were spaceships is the thing.
Yeah.
And that's cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of setup so he can go and take the spaceship and it's a big kind of action set piece spectacular to cap off the film.
Yeah.
Which works really well. And it seems in Ed Solomon's script originally there was going to be a kind of big philosophical debate between those characters and Edgar and they were going to talk it out and Sonnenfeld said no, you have to have a action spectacular that's going to match the tone of the rest of the film.
Yeah.
So it sounded like it was going in a bit of a kind of Star Trek direction of trying to talk things out when instead, you know, Tommy Lee Jones gets swallowed by a bug and everything blows up and all the rest of it.
Eat me!
Yeah. I can't do this episode without going, how do you know my name?
Yeah.
Which is from the third one. But really, I mean...
Okay. He does such a good job as well. Old Brolin does such a great job.
And Bill Hader as Andy Warhol.
Yes. Yeah.
And obviously Jermaine Clement as well.
Yeah.
In there, which is great. But anyway, that's possibly a discussion for another episode.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad. I was really glad because we kind of didn't plan this particularly. I just sort of like, can we do Men in Black? You were like, yeah. And then you were kind of like, I don't like the second one. I like the third one. I was like, yes. Yeah, people slag on the third one, and it's better than I think.
It's a bit more poppy. It has less.
There's less to it. It's slighter.
Yeah.
But it's a whole pile of fun, and I think it works really well. It's not as good as the first one, of course.
But one thing I wanted to bring up was the makeup job on D'Onofrio, because like I say, that character is largely performative. I mean, all that that is one of those knife edge things where it's like any scene in isolation just looks too much, but it's like actually when you realise it's a giant bug trying to work a man costume,
a slowly rotting man
costume.
By the end, he's just kind of all, and that his whole
he's literally like can't arms flailing,
stuck inside a skin suit.
Does the whole thing. He pulls up in the van and he's just like.
And so this is what I mean about the kind of because Ghostbusters is quite scary in parts as well.
Yeah,
and that he's walking around wearing a dead man's skin, and it rots. It's kind of like it's
like Terminator, isn't it?
What was depicted in the Terminator, which people kind of forget about. It's like the skin suit kind of rots when it gets damaged, and
but it's okay because Genesis, it all just comes back.
It just grows back. Yeah. Someone kind of went like, but in Terminator 2 he says it regenerates. It's like, no, he says they heal.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. Anyway. It's a really horrific kind of body horror thing, and it's a staged makeup, so further throughout the film he just rots and rots and rots and rots, and he's like...
It's the point where at the end he's like, you idiot! Back to the second one, Like when he's coming down the thing, and then it's just like, and he literally just pulls it off. And there's this impossibly sized bug that's inside him with like legs that would never leave. But you imagine he spent the whole thing like there.
Yeah, another thing that I used to do for my mate Nick is like, "Do you want a drink?"
Sugar.
More. And when he gulps it down, he has this great. I think he must have gone for like that. Must have been a really fun character to sort of put together with the makeup team because I think he's gone for like a contact lens that's looking slightly the wrong way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's like when he's always like, and it's a hard one to do because you go like, well, he wouldn't express. He's a bug in a man costume, so would he be? Is there like a hand up here working the face? And is he expressing things like because when he's like,
it's got eyes in it? Because I think when you see the skin, you see the skin.
Yeah,
it doesn't have eyes in it then.
No.
So I guess.
So
I mean, probably
the
best not to think about this.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it too much, but I just mean from the actor standpoint of what choices he's making and whether or not he's saying that it's expressive because the bug's face is like behind his face, or is it that he's trying to make it look
and like there's that kind of thing of him trying to burst out of it all the time and what that'd be like and everything.
When the guy goes to tow him and he just goes up, he's like goes up, comes back with the gun, he's like,
what was he called, like Farmer John?
Please, yeah. And you just hear this off screen. It's so well judged, like all that stuff, and how you marshal a thing like that when there isn't really much of a precedence for it, going into it. I mean, I Sonnenfeld is as shown, I think, with things like Get Shorty. It's just he knows visual gags, he knows visual humour so well.
There's a real lightness of touch there.
Yeah,
and I would really like to talk about. I would particularly like to talk about the Addams Family Values because I think that's the rare kind of superior sequel.
I have to see it. I've not seen it.
Oh, it's wonderful. Have you not seen it at all?
No.
I'm jealous of you. Like, that is, you get to experience that. It's fantastic. I really love that movie. And again, there's this kind of lightness of touch. There's this great sense of timing in particular. And I think he's someone who's able to get the absolute best out of his, these performers that he works with. Admittedly, okay, so he made Wild Wild West, which is, but Wild Wild West felt doomed from the start. It's like Barry Sonnenfeld has to make a Will Smith film. Yeah. Barry Sonnenfeld has to make a Will Smith buddy comedy now, because we want money. So there's that. And he's done a ton of TV. I think he did some of the Tick live action show. I think the one with Patrick Warburton, not the new Sarah Fenich one. And he did, I believe, the Lemony Snicket TV series. Series of Unfortunate Events. I understand he was involved in that. So he's done an absolute ton of TV in recent years. Which is a shame because I would want to see him back doing some kind of blockbuster. I do wonder though, and it's interesting seeing how directors have evolved, if you like, over the last few decades. It's like some of them seem to struggle with moving into the modern era of filmmaking, or not struggle with it, but perhaps because they're being asked to come back and recreate things they've done. I mean, Ridley Scott springs to mind in terms of Alien and stuff like that, literally going back to a well and not seeming to know. I don't want to say he doesn't get it or he's bad in any way, because I like, the Ridley Gestapo will come and get me in my career. Discussion for another time. Yeah, but whatever. But I do think I wonder if Sonnenfeld. I don't know, because I think Sonnenfeld seems to be able to hop genres very easily, and he seems to understand generally what makes for good visual storytelling. So swap and hybridize, I think. Yeah, definitely. So I do think he's someone who would be good, but I don't know in today's. Bearing in mind that Men in Black and Wild Wild West aside, his main pool, I think, was kind of the mid-budget stuff. I mean, Men in Black might have been a mid-budget film, actually. I don't know. I mean, it was probably quite high. Probably should have looked that up. But it doesn't feel like it. No. Particularly as a Will Smith vehicle off the back of successful Will Smith stuff. Tommy Lee Jones, obviously, still in his Oscar-winning place. But I think... I think his main thing is that kind of... it seems like the kind of film he would make has kind of gone away. Like, it's dried up in a lot of ways, or it's become the preserve of very much independent film. Or television. Yeah. I haven't watched... that's not true. I tried to watch Series of Unfortunate Events, but it just wasn't for me. But that strikes me as very much in that kind of cozy but dark mould of the Addams Family. I can see why that would work. And The Tick as well, in its kind of comic book thing. He did Men in Black 3, and I kind of think, I haven't seen Men in Black International. I've kind of got a week off, in as much as I have a week off. I might go and see it, even though the reviews are dismal. But I'm sort of like, can F. Gary Gray do that? F. Gary Gray to me is just this absolute hired gun. I don't really view him particularly as a very idiosyncratic filmmaker, so I'm sort of like, well, what's he going to add? Whereby that Hemsworth and Thompson, I think, are perfect for those roles. You know? But who knows? A
bit inside baseball. I don't normally share my failures on anywhere, but I came very close to getting the job to do the Lexus tie-in commercial for Men in Black International.
And I only Mercedes.
I didn't bring it up because I got penciled, but the guy who was directing it was Daniel Kleinman, who directs all the Bond title sequences since GoldenEye, I think, and that's what I was excited to do. I was like, because I was like, yes, I'm going to get to do stuff with him, but they client changed their mind about certain whatever it was. Anyway, I didn't get the job, but that was my kind of brief dalliance. So I had to go, and in the audition, I had to be a Man in Black and do all my all that stuff, which was kind of fun. That was good. It was cool to be a man. I was a Man in Black for a bit, 5 minutes, and then bang. Cool.
And that is very much what that trope carried forward is what's in The Matrix as well. The agents are essentially Men in Black.
That's true.
When I believe Men in Black featured in the X-Files as well, it was just this big kind of 90s trope.
I mean, it's the government man.
That was the concept
thing,
initially. It's a kind of government man, but this kind of goes, no, actually they're intergalactic immigration, which is a kind of mad concept. Well, I think, my friends, that's about it. If I'd thought of it, I could summon a cheap joke about, I'm gonna neuralise you.
So forget you watch it again.
Watch the episode again. Which was literally the trailer, wasn't it? Do you remember? It was like Smith and Jones, and they totally look into the light, and then they go and see Men in Black for the first time.
Oh, really?
Because they'd neuralised you. It's kind of wank. But, hey ho.
Did people know what that was? No, that's the only thing.
I think the preceding footage said
I see.
Yeah, and then it's them down camera, just sort of like, wah. So, there you go. That is Men in Black. I think it's a great movie. You've probably all seen it. Go watch it again. I might watch it later when he fucks off. I don't know. For it is a good film. And let us know if you did see Men in Black International, because I've not. I'd be interested to see what they've done with that. Oh yeah. Danny Elfman did the music. It's good. It works in this film. That's a discussion.
It has created a theme. I mean, there's definitely a theme there for Men in Black.
It works. It works very, very well as well. It works very, very well. I was remiss not to say that. So we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We're on Twitch, but we don't really use that anymore. But we do live streams on YouTube, gaming ones, and us just getting drunk and reading catalogues out. That was quite fun.
Yeah.
We've also got a Discord. We've got an Amazon Marketplace store. We've got a Redbubble shop. You can support us in all these ways. We've also got Patreon as well. This is out every Monday. We're rounding on 40 episodes soon. This might even be the 40th one.
Well, I guess this is the 40th one.
Yeah! I'm not.
Kill the fireworks!
I'm not going back and adding an intro. Fuck that. Thank you very much for joining us as ever. We will be back on Wednesday with something different to this. It's normally a commentary podcast, but it's intermittently other things. And we'll also see you again next Monday for more. Goodbye. Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Valverde shop.